All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something pretty amazing today. It's a story about how an idea, not a company, not a product, but a spiritual idea, traveled thousands of miles, took root in the Pacific Northwest, and managed to thrive for an entire century. This is the story of the Vedanta Society of Portland.
You know, this quote from Swami Vivekananda really nails the whole spirit of what we're talking about. It's like you don't see the dew falling at night, right? It's silent, it's invisible, but in the morning, the roses are blooming. That's the essence of the Vedanta movement. It's not loud or flashy. It's a quiet, steady influence that has this powerful, transformative effect. So, that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? In our world, where everything is about speed and noise and growth, how does a community built on silence and contemplation last for 100 years? It kind of goes against everything we think success looks like. So let's dig in and find out. To really get the society, you have to first understand the idea that powers it. Think of it as a kind of spiritual gravity, a subtle but powerful force that's always working, silently to pull things toward balance and harmony, especially in a world that feels pretty chaotic.
Now, the philosophy at the heart of this was, for its time, completely revolutionary. This wasn't about converting anybody. A 19th century mystic named Sri Ramakrishna came to a radical conclusion after actually practicing different faiths. He said that all sincere spiritual paths, they all lead to the same destination. This idea of universal acceptance, well, that was the seed that started everything. So, how on earth did this idea travel from India and take root in Portland, Oregon, of all places? Well, the story doesn't start with a big building or a grand plan. Nope. It starts with just a small, dedicated group of students who heard this message and felt it was something they'd been looking for. And this foundation was built slowly, with a lot of patience. It started with visits from Swami Vivekananda's brother monks, who came and nurtured this growing interest. And these students were serious. They actually petitioned the main society in New York, way back in 1904. For 20 years, think about that, 20 years, they just kept the spark alive, meeting in each other's homes. And then, the turning point. After all those years of quiet study, 70 people got together at the Portland Hotel and made it official. And that right there, that was day one of the society's 100-year journey.
But, forming a society is one thing. Surviving is something else entirely. The next chapter in their story is just one of immense struggle. They were about to be tested by, well, pretty much everything. Economic collapse, social pushback, and a constant, desperate search for a place to call home. I mean, the challenges hit them right out of the gate. The Great Depression strikes, and at times they literally didn't have enough money to pay the milk bill. For 2 whole years, they didn't have a resident Swami. And get this, when they tried to buy some land, hostile neighbors actually blocked the purchase. But for every external problem, they had this incredible internal strength. No money? The Lord provides. No building? We'll embrace work as worship and just meet in our homes. They simply refused to let the idea die. And their journey was anything but stable. Just look at this timeline. For over 40 years, they were basically nomads, moving from rented rooms to halls to houses all over the city. Can you imagine getting settled, thinking you finally have a place, and then being forced to move again? It shows an incredible amount of tenacity. So, after decades of wandering, the story finally takes a turn. This is the part where the community's faith and all that hard work finally come together, and they get to build a permanent sanctuary, quite literally with their own hands. The first breakthrough actually came in 1936, right in the middle of the Great Depression, which is amazing. The society bought 120 acres of wooded land near Scappoose, Oregon. This wasn't just another piece of property. This was their future. This became their retreat, a place for contemplation, and finally, a real symbol of permanence. Then, in 1968, after being uprooted one last time, they found their final home. And the original notes say it was a very dilapidated building. But where most people would see a ruin, they saw a sanctuary. The members themselves gutted the place and rebuilt it. The whole idea of work as worship suddenly meant hammering nails and raising walls. And out at that Scappoose retreat, they did something truly beautiful. They transformed their philosophy into something physical. Using wood from their own trees and simple hand tools, monastic members built shrines. But they didn't just honor their own tradition, they built shrines to the Buddha, to Christ, to Judaism, Islam, and even Native American traditions. They made their belief in as many faiths, so many paths, a tangible, walkable reality. Now, this is the part that's just incredible. They created this profound, sacred space with almost no money. Most of these shrines were built with a budget of less than $100. $100! This wasn't about wealth, it was about pure devotion, resourcefulness, and the belief that you can create something sacred from whatever you have right in front of you. So that brings us to today. After a century of trials, of tenacity, of literally building a community from the ground up, what is the legacy of all this quiet work, and what can we take away from their journey? From that very first meeting of 70 people in 1925, we arrive here in 2025, a full century of continuous silent service. It's just a remarkable milestone, one that wasn't built on rapid expansion, but on deep roots and unwavering dedication. So, what's the takeaway from this whole story? It really comes down to these simple but profound principles that kept them going. First, the real goal of life isn't something external, it's internal. It's about realizing a deeper reality for true peace. Second, all religions are valid paths leading to that same goal. And maybe most importantly, it's the challenge to see the divine in everyone and to turn every single action, from hammering a nail to helping a neighbor, into an expression of that. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our culture, where success is so often measured by how loud you are, how visible you are, what's the value of something that has quietly and steadily served its community for 100 years? What can we learn from the power of that gentle, unseen, and unheard work? It's definitely something to think about.